Hello, Ken Spriggs here with a quick review of a 3D printed figure model that I got from a company called HG Designs by Joe Hudson. And it's a 3D printed figure. As far as I understand, it's only available as an already printed one that they'll send to you rather than a file, so I didn't print it myself. But really awesome figure that I got from them. I will include links in the description on how you can get one as well. And it's of the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman from the classic 1958 schlocky horror film of the same name. Not an overall great film, but the figure is kind of iconic. The poster for it's pretty iconic, along with other films around that same time. It's kind of a clever concept, even though it was done at a very low budget. Definitely a B movie. So let's go ahead and take a look at the figure. All right, so I'm doing a quick review of this really amazing 3D printed figure of the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman from the 1950s film of the same name. Not a great film, as I mentioned in the intro. Very cheesy special effects, but an iconic image, and certainly from my youth when I saw this film, along with The Amazing Colossal Man and the sequel, the Amazing Colossal Beast, I believe it was, showing these giant, people with the giant props and the giant hand and funny things like that. I thought it was pretty funny. So let me go over the parts here. So the figure comes in two scales, a 1/8 and a 1/6. Now, before you say anything, and someone else mentioned as well in one of my Facebook posts, she's a 50-foot figure. So clearly, this is the 1/8 scale. This is not 1/8 scale of a 50-foot tall woman. Obviously, what they were going for is a 1/8 scale or a 1/6 scale of a normal person to give you the idea of how that would fit in with other figures in the same basic scale, like the Fly or the creature from the Black Lagoon or the Invisible Man figures that are in the 1/8 scale. That's why I picked this size. I like this size better. This figure is about 9 or 10 inches tall when on the base. The larger one is about 12 inches tall. So definitely larger. I like the smaller one better. It goes better on a shelf space. But obviously, she's not in 1/8 scale of a woman who would be 50 feet tall. But it gives you the idea of it fitting in with other figures that are in the 1/8 scale or the 1/6 scale type of a size. So beautifully done, beautifully put together, and really well done by HG Designs and Joe Hudson. So I will post links in the description. So let's go over some of the parts. So very well designed, very well engineered on how they made all the parts of the figure. So here's her torso. And in the film, they don't explain it, but she has this thing draped around her like a skirt, and she has something draped around her like a bra. And her midsection is exposed, not her belly button, of course. Can't show belly buttons back then in the 50s. But she's walking around, and other than that, her legs are bare, her arms are bare. And I watched the film to get some reference ideas. Not an overly well-made film at all, as I mentioned earlier. Special effects are pretty crappy, but it holds fond memories in my mind, just like The Amazing Colossal Man, and then there was a sequel to it, The Amazing Colossal Beast, where he comes back. just clever, and a lot of these were done obviously with oversized props and oversized hand, that sort of thing. Not an overly engulfing story, engrossing story. Basically, her two-timing cheating husband, and she's wealthy, and he just wants her for her money, and she runs into this big sphere in the desert that has this giant in it, and he touches her, and she gets bigger, she grows larger, and gets revenge on her deadbeat husband who's cheating on her. But that aside, I did like the image of the 60-foot woman, and next to things that would show her size, that kind of thing. So what they included is they have this base, which is kind of thick. It is hollow, so it's not really heavy, but it's kind of thick. It has built-in parts for her feet, a little square here for this tree. They included a tree. It's a nicely done tree, like a desert Joshua tree, I believe it is. But it's hard to gain a scale for her from a tree. This tree could be really large, it could be really small. It's really hard to tell how big she is just based on a tree. It comes with this little clear car that she's holding in her hand. So if you want to mask off the window or even the headlights or whatever, paint the rest of it and then just have the clear windshield. You can even put some clear gloss on that to make it look shinier. Not badly done. It fits into her left hand. Really nice job on the nails. I'll show more of that figure here in a moment. Then it has this little sign, which is the logo, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, which just goes on any of the curved sides. I don't think it has a certain spot. Yeah, it's all smooth. So you can put wherever you want it. And of course, it has like some grass or whatever that is, the road with the lines built into it, and the road is cracked. It does have a sign. I'm going to have to go get it out of the box. It's a little sign that says Route 66. In the film, they are going along Route 66 when they see the alien. So there's a little broken sign that you just sit down on the road. And then, of course, the figure. So let's go ahead and take a look at the figure. So we have her torso. We have the two legs. Nicely done feet with the toenails. And the beauty of this kit is that you can paint these parts separately and not have to worry about seams. And I'll show you here in a moment. I just showed her torso, and in the back of it, a little bit of overlap for this thing draped around her waist. Then you have the top of her with her arms built in and her face. Oddly shaped back of her head. It looks like she's scarred, but she's not. It's designed for the hair to fit perfectly right over it and over her ears. So again, no seams, very little seam to worry about. You can paint the hair separately, and then you can just put it onto the figure and just fix up the hairline a little bit. Nicely done. And then her other arm. Cool little nails on it. So the arms are the only thing that you have to worry about with a seam, because you have her arms are bare, and where they connect onto her forearms is also bare. But pretty easy to do. They're just smooth skin. So when I glue the arms on, just patch up where they connect, smooth them out, and then just paint the rest of it, the flesh tones. Likewise, when you put these together, these are natural seams where you're not going to have to do any filling. Let me put that together and show you. All right, so very nicely done. Very cool pose of her looking angry and defiant. Great likeness on the face to the actress in the film, in the hair. There is an odd thing in the film which I noticed, which I don't quite understand, but when we see her for most of the film when she's just her normal size, her hair is really dark. It's like a black hair. When she grows and she's larger, her hair is definitely more blondish and lighter brown. Not sure why that is, but I'm going to go with that color when I paint her, just because that's how we see her when she grows. But as you can see, where her upper torso, where the bra line is, attaches, there's no seam, so you don't have to worry about it. Where the legs go in, same thing. You're not going to be looking underneath it, but they look seamless. The legs are all one piece, both legs. The arms are the only place where they're connecting, and they connect fairly well. That'll be easy enough to fill that seam in and sand it. It's nice and smooth. The hair as well, just a little bit of, and probably when I glue it together, I could put in some epoxy sculpt right around that forehead line to just smooth it into it to be a little less jagged. But really, really cool. Really cool design. Really awesome figure. All right. So I'm not ultimately going to use the base that came with it, but I am going to use, obviously, the figure, the car, probably the sign. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to use the tree or not. And again, it's a beautiful tree. It's a nice base. No complaints on it. But I want to do something a little different that shows her scale. So let me show you what I'm using for that. All right, so here's the figure just put together. She's not glued together or anything on the base. Certainly very impressive, very nicely done. I even put the car in her hand, and I have a little N-scale guy inside of it. I'm kind of playing with the idea of having a guy hanging off of it, which I think would be kind of cool. He's not kind of in the right pose, but I could make it work. I have some other ones that I got, a whole set of them. So possibly one of these could be arranged where I could cut the arms off or reposition them, that kind of thing, to fit into in the car. I like the idea of him kind of hanging off of the car and her holding it. And it would be more obvious once the car is painted as well. So to give her a better scale, as you can see, she's certainly much larger than the tree, but it just, to me, doesn't give her the right scale. I know the road would, but I found a file on cults3d.com of an electrical tower. And there's a scene, there's only a few scenes where she's by a real prop. One is when she's by an electrical tower, she's behind it, and the other is when she's by this generic looking hotel. But the electric tower certainly gives it a scale of how large she would be. So I found the file and I printed it out. And here is, I printed two of them. Here's one here and one that's a little bit larger. I think the larger one is going to do. Now keep in mind, this is a pretty thick base. So ultimately, if this were at the same height as the base, it's going to be larger. It's just almost about this, the height of her. We don't see very many shots of that, pretty much one shot. The rest of the time, she's just superimposed and she's walking, and then they superimpose it over real electrical towers or real mountains or hillside or buildings. And her scale ranges wildly, and she's kind of transparent because they're just transposing this on the film over top of other scenes. But at one point, there is an actual tower. I think she kind of grabs it from behind a little bit and to show the scale. But I really like the idea of her being next to an electric tower, because you know how big those are. And to see her dwarfing it really gives you the idea of scale. So I'm going to make my own base. I'm going to have a portion of the road. I'm going to have the electric tower. I'm going to have some other scenic material on the road, that sort of thing. And then her holding the car next to it. So I'll post the file. I'll post the link for this electric tower as well in the description so you can see it. So very nicely done figure, really, really cool. Whether you like the movie or not or think it's great, she's certainly an iconic image from the 50s. And when you see the poster that they did for it, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, and You know, just the idea of this giant woman wreaking havoc and that sort of thing. Same with the amazing colossal man that I mentioned earlier. To me, it just harkens back to my childhood. And then, of course, shows like Land of the Giants, where they did the same thing, where they had the big fake hand coming in and grabbing the person, and they had all the oversized props and things like that to give you the idea. Obviously, Land of the Giants was a different idea, where they were small and the giants were just the people on the planet. So, by comparison, but similar idea, where she's grown to be 50 foot tall and wreaks havoc on the town. So, really nicely done, really beautifully printed. I highly recommend it. And if you do want a larger one, certainly, like I said, there is a bigger one available that you can get. I don't have any particular plans just yet, probably not till after the holidays, when I'm going to start building this and building up the base, like I said, that I'm going to use independently. But certainly stay tuned for that. And if you're interested in getting this figure, I recommend checking out the links. And I'm sure they'll be happy to print one for you and get it sent on out to you. So, all right. And they do have some other figures that they're working on that they were showing as well. So you could check those out also. All right, so really, really good figure. I highly recommend it if you're interested in this subject matter. I don't have a set time for when I'm going to be building this. I'm not really starting any new projects other than working on my commission builds until the beginning of the year because of the holidays and traveling and things like that. So I'll be looking at that here probably sometime in January. We'll see, coming up with some ideas for the base and that kind of thing. So, all right. Thank you to all my new subscribers, and I will see you in the next video.